Welcome back. This is Arise News. You're watching the morning show with me, Biola Labi. From buying Netflix stocks in the U.S. to Jimmy Choo stocks in the U.K., investing in a dementia home in Austria, to investing in cow sperms in Omaha. From investing in oil palm in eastern Nigeria to exporting charcoal, from investing in gold bars to buying foreclosed homes in Atlanta and renovating and selling them off. My guest, Motunrayo Adefamoti, does this and so much more for investors at her investment management firm, Money Stewards. She manages a growing portfolio made up of a mix of European, Asian, and North American stocks, bonds, mutual funds, exchange trades, forex trading, commodities, agriculture, real estate. Let's just say she is an investment guru. Welcome to the show, Motunrayo.
Thank you very much.
Well, you do find the unfindable when it comes to investments.
Oh yes, it's my job to find the gold mine.
That's
and
it.
Put my investors' money to work, give them excellent returns.
Fantastic. So tell us a little bit about some of the unusual ways in which you have found when it comes to investing, some of the unusual investments you found.
Honestly, we do quite a lot. One of the things I enjoy the most is actually the investments I do in America, because there's so much more in that country. It is truly the land of opportunity. We've invested in, foreclosed homes. Right now we're doing a brand new home in a gated community in Houston Heights. It's an upmarket part of Houston, and a four-story building. So we're providing funding as well. So we partner with a mortgage company to provide funds. So anybody who's wanting to invest in that, we're available. We also buy properties as little as $60,000 for clients. So people tend to think that you only get much more expensive properties in America. No, a cost of land in Aja can buy you a house in Atlanta.
Unbelievable.
Absolutely, and the yields are great. You can yield on rental income as high as 15%. One of the investors we did a flip for in Atlanta. In 6 months, we made 35% for him, and this is on the US dollar. So as long as you have the money, we're there to make it work for you.
I'm very impressed. So, Motunrayo, just so people know that it's never too early to start, tell people sort of where and how you started investing from a personal perspective before you started to do it professionally.
Okay, well, I studied in the UK, and after I finished my degree, I was really broke like everybody else. And it was tough to get a job at the time because, one, I'm Nigerian with an accent and a foreigner, and I was working in the legal space, which is very, white-dominated industry. And I needed money, so I volunteered in different places. And at the time, I found myself in a real estate company, and they were selling properties, and I got a brilliant idea that I wanted to buy a property. And of course, I started to apply for mortgages in several places. I was turned down. Eventually, I did get a mortgage, and I bought my first property. I was probably about 21 then, and it gave me nice income because it gave me, after all said and done, I used to make about £400 a month. Yes. So that was nice income, and I still actually, I think I sold the property years later and made quite a lot of money on the equity part of it. But so that's how I started, and yes, we acquired quite a few while I was in the UK. But 2007, 2008 happened, and some of the properties we repossessed. It's the story I like to tell people, that no matter what you are doing as an investor, you do make, if you're not making mistakes, the economy can turn on you. Yes, so when people say, realize you can't go wrong.
And that was basically, for those people watching that might not remember, that was when the global financial market there was a global financial market meltdown.
There was a global financial market, and the property market tanked. And so we had issues there. But, like every investor, you should bounce back. Like every business person, you should. So when people say to me, you can never go wrong with real estate, I'll say proceed with caution. We have seen the flip side of it. And I always say this, real estate made Donald Trump a billionaire and a bankrupt.
Yes. And many times over, many times.
Absolutely.
One of the things in your bio that we talk about is gold. And we had a brief conversation about gold. Tell people a little bit about investing in gold and what your take is. I mean, just your take on gold and investment, because that's also something people always say, especially women. They always sort of feel like buying gold is another way of putting money aside for a rainy day because you can sell that. What is your opinion on that? I'm curious.
I mean, if you traditionally, people tend to buy gold, the jewelry kind of gold, and the truth of the matter is that when you do return the money to get the money back, you don't get as much as you paid for it. We know that. So that's one way of it, and it's not like every other jewelry that you could probably throw out. So that's one. Another way of investing in gold is coins. You know, you can buy the coins, but be very careful because, you know, there are a lot of fakes out there. That's the truth. And the third way of investing in gold is when you actually buy the gold bars. But you have to bear in fact that there's you have to bear in mind that there's storage fees and insurance to be paid. And you can't really do much with gold bars because you can't even open it.
But I guess you pet it every day, like, oh, I have a gold bar.
you pet it, but don't open it because when you open it, you devalue it.
Yes, and I think it starts to also, like, if you touch it too much and all that stuff.
Of course.
Like, the value
most of the time,
gold,
you don't even see it. It's somewhere in London or whatever, or wherever it's stored. You might get a visa if you have lots of it. So you go look at your gold. And the last way to buy gold, obviously, is the exchange traded funds, the ETFs. That's, if you look, I call it the gold market, the stock market of gold. So that's another way of buying gold. I probably prefer that because that one you can just trade on your online platform, which is what I like to do. So if you can do it in commodities, gold, you know, whatever a particular instrument you want to, you can just register on an online platform and trade all day.
When you look at your clients and when you're talking to your clients, what type of things are you telling your clients today when they're looking at investments? What type of things are sort of out there and instruments that you're looking at and you're advising clients to take a look at? What's interesting right now?
Well, bear in mind that most of my investment is outside the country.
Was that strategic? Was that intentional? Why are most of your investments outside of the country?
Okay, there's a personal story to it, actually. My husband and I, we wanted to invest in an investment property in Lekki. So we had some savings in the US and we brought the money in. It was at 200 naira to the dollar. And shortly after, literally weeks or months after that, the naira tanked further and we were still bleeding from that property. And I couldn't get over it and I kept, you know, thinking about it. And I remember coming across the phrase that, you know, opportunities come after disaster. So I decided that there must be something I can do. And if I experience this, maybe a lot of people are experiencing that as well. And so also at the time, my father unfortunately passed away. And I remember it was during the time where there was restriction on your card spending. So you couldn't spend more than $1,000. And my father was in India going through operation. There was I mean, he went with my mom and his personal doctor and my brother.
So you needed cash.
And
like $1,000 a day was not going to work.
They couldn't access money during that time. Ended up bringing him back to Nigeria without doing the procedure. And I thought to myself, the money was there, but he couldn't access it. And, you know, and I'm thinking, people are...
So just so people at home remember, that was when there was the CBN, there was a lot of CBN regulatory around how much banks could actually dispense because there was basically like a dollar shortage at that point. So even if you had dollars in your bank account, you couldn't actually withdraw it.
You couldn't access it.
Yes.
You couldn't access
there was a restriction. It was obviously...
There was a restriction. And, you know, I remember going to the banks every day, trying to begging for my own money. And I thought, this is not right. There must be something we can do. And then I decided that, you know what, why don't I try and make the money in dollars, and that's when my research started. I'd invested in UK. I knew UK very well, but UK's property market is very different from that of America. So I booked a ticket to Atlanta, went there, put a team together, and came back and started to talk to one or two people, and that's how I started really. And I realized there was a huge demand there because a lot of people want to send their kids abroad.
Yes.
They realize that earning naira, it's not going to pay their school fees when they need it. When I went to university in England, it was about 80 naira to the pound. Now, even my parents had been saving for years, and I was about to go to university now. They couldn't afford it because now it's about 500.
Like you said, the money you had saved before, like Tolu had said, the money you saved before and you put it somewhere, it's no longer the same value at the time you saved it. It's no longer the same value.
So people have to learn that if you're going to have bills now or future bills in dollars and pounds, then you need to begin to earn in those you know,
in those currencies.
In those currencies, absolutely. Or else, by the time you need and you take your naira there, you know, situations happen. So it was born from personal experience, and I started I started Money Stewards, and we went on from there.
Wow. And so people come to you because they want to invest abroad.
Yes.
And then do you do anything in Europe or just strictly US, UK?
Well, most of my investors invest with me because of the returns. And I get them better returns in America.
Okay. What type of returns are you talking about?
A lot of returns.
Well, what percent? I mean, are we talking 200%, 100%? I mean,
I'm not a money dog.
No, that's what I'm saying.
I want them strict. I said, listen, it's an investment, so it could go either way.
Yes.
So you have to know what you're getting yourself into, and it depends on what the client wants. If you want stocks, I can't guarantee any returns for you. However, I typically return Let me just say the last one I cashed out probably was about 53%
Oh,
of the
wow.
New York Stock Exchange. The market itself returned about 14%. So that's phenomenal in my world.
That is very, very impressive.
We've returned, on the property market, we've returned 35% over a 6-month period. But these are numbers that, on average, that we do. Depending, but I'm talking of the clients with large volumes to invest.
Sure.
You
So
know.
now you're talking about large volumes to invest. So people at home are, like right now, the minute you said large volumes to invest, people at home are like, she's one of those people, forget it. Tell people though, like for how much, like how little, how big can you start with?
Well, you can start from as little as maybe, do I have to put a figure to it?
I think it's important for people to know that, I mean, there are other investments they can do smaller, but if someone is looking to do an international investment, what are your, like, what does that
Okay,
start?
let me just break it down like this. If you're looking to buy a property, want to flip the property, you want us to do that for you, it depends on what, because we have to find the project.
Sure.
So it could be as little as $150,000, $200,000 and upwards for you to actually successfully flip a property and make excellent returns.
Yeah.
If you're talking about the stock market, then you can go in as $10,000.
Okay.
You know, because then that's, and then you can make
I mean,
returns.
people are sort of, you can work your way up from there.
Absolutely. And if you're talking about the products like maybe mutual funds or bonds, then similar entry level, but lower returns, obviously, because some of them they're guaranteed products. So you're talking about 5%-ish, 6%, which is still phenomenal because generally in America you probably get 1% at best.
Fair enough.
0.1% is usually what you get. Even in Nigeria, most banks probably give you like 5-6%. So we kind of match it.
That's savings is not where you make your money in.
But if you have to be careful because in America, if you're making 5% returns on the dollar, that's phenomenal because you have to understand that the inflation rate is 2%. So you're doubling your inflation rate. In Nigeria, the inflation rate is double digits.
It's 16% right now.
So at the end of the day, for you to equivalent to what you're making in America, you have to double the inflation rate. And so I always say to people, forget about the rates. Look at the inflation. What is the inflation of that country? And if we're doubling the inflation rate, we're doing excellently well.
Okay. So now, I mean, I know we were talking earlier, and you also were talking about some of the venture capital stuff you're doing. Tell us a little bit about how you're working with that, how you're working in that space, and what type of investments you're doing locally. Because I know people are like, okay, she's doing all this stuff internationally. What is she doing locally? Tell us more about that.
Okay, this is small businesses where I'm only interested in small businesses.
When you say small businesses, like what is a small business for you?
Well, small businesses that typically will never get financed in the bank. Okay. That's the kind of business that we're interested in.
So a company that's looking to raise like how much?
Little money, probably like 2 million-ish,
oh,
3 million.
Oh, that's small. Those are the kind of companies you're looking for for your VC fund.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that and some of the type of...
historically, that small businesses, they struggle to survive. So it's at 80% failure rate. Yeah. So I try to keep that very small. So with the small businesses, we invest probably 2 million, 1 million thereabout. I try not to go above 3 million naira. Okay. And
do you guys provide any other services with that, like just sort of mentorship? Because also
we provide, of course. I have to understand.
You have to be part of that. Yeah,
I have to be part of that. I'm not about to lose my investors' funds. They didn't pay me their money to lose it for them. So I make sure I look at your books and make sure to see what you're doing. I'll visit your I understand that they don't have the kind of structure that the big companies have, but we work with them. We work with them, and we don't take equity. Okay. We're just debt investors, and we get our money back after a short period of time.
Okay, and I mean, with those type of VC investments, how long does it normally take for you?
Very short, maybe 2 months, 3 months.
Really? So you're really just providing gap financing in a way?
That's what we're doing with that for now. We're looking, I think in the last quarter of the year, we're looking at something more substantial to up to a year. Okay. Depends on how our books and our investors take it on, but eventually, that's what we're looking at. We're looking at about a year out. Okay. We started actually with that, but it didn't quite work out, so we went to the shorter end.
Well, what happened? Why didn't it work out?
It didn't work out because the payments were not as. It could also be the choice of clients we had then. Some of them were going to logistics. So it didn't quite work out, So we said, okay, for very specific clients that we're very sure they can give us our money back, we'll do it at a short space of time with a smaller amount of money.
And you do interest on that?
Yes.
Okay, what type of interest do you give people?
As high as microfinance interest.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, so you're still working that model into
Yes, we're still working the model.
Okay.
I mean, the one I'd say our greatest strength is, and the reason why we went into VC was because people kept asking me, well, when I come home, I mean, I live here, and what are you going to do for the local ones? And I thought this is a way of,
at least getting your feet wet, starting to understand it.
Absolutely.
Okay. When you look at your I mean, we're going to go on a break and bring Tolu, who was our guest earlier, and then when we come back, what I really want to do is focus on sort of what both of you think around women and investing, and the fact that there is quite a lot of education in the market now, and are we seeing that translate into more investments? Okay. So we're going to take a break now, and when we come back, we're going to talk more about that.
Look forward to discussing that.
It's time now for another break, but when we come back, there will be more from Motunrayo on investments, and Tolu, who was with us earlier. Don't go away.